Coach Laura Erickson here with blonderunner.com. I do want to give you guys some tips on how to get started in triathlon training. We'll wait just a few minutes. Hi, Nicole. Thanks for joining. We'll wait for some other people to join us before we start talking. But tell me a little bit about you guys. Have you done a triathlon before? And if you have done them before, or do you have goals for training for other ones, or kind of give me some information on you. I'll also tell you a little bit more about me. If you didn't see my introduction, I will be posting those on my YouTube channel. We are going to talk about the best way to start, best way to train for triathlon, just getting going on pretty much triathlon training. It's a great sport because you really train your overall body. So I actually come from a running background. If you did miss my introduction, Periscope, I will be offering that. I'll have it on my YouTube channel, which is The Blonde Runner. So you can follow me there and then review any of these that you may not have seen. So I do come from a running background. So obviously running is a big part of triathlon. If you've never heard of a triathlon, you're not sure what it's all about, then you've come to the right Periscope because we're going to talk about that. So do tell me a little bit about you. Tell me, you guys, where you're from, what's your name, and maybe, always posting what you want to learn is great. So last time I had a hard time seeing chat, and I think I didn't have my ringer on, so I'm hoping that's what fixes it. So give me some hearts, give me some chat so I know that you guys are, because I'm not seeing any again. I'm not sure if I've turned it off or something. Let me make sure it's on here. Okay. But I'll get to talking. I don't like to just talk to you, but I don't see any of the chat again. So Chrissy joined, it looks like. I'm seeing who joined, so that's good. So if I can't answer your questions, I'll try to get them. Certainly put them on. I don't know why I'm not seeing it again in this post, but please ask them, and if it's in the repost or replay, I'll get those questions and answer them another time. So let's start talking about, how do you get started in training for a triathlon? I remember when I started, my first goal for doing a triathlon, I saw a newspaper clipping. Actually, it was Ray Browning finishing. Well, it caught my eye because he was way lean, and I thought, oh, that's a nice looking guy. So he was finishing a triathlon, and he was finishing what most people think of a triathlon as is an Ironman distance. Now, it's not the only distance. An Ironman distance is a 2.4 mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, and a marathon. Now, all triathlons are not necessarily in that order, by the way, but most of them are. Swim, bike, run. And you do one right after the other. You don't get a break and a shower and, have a meal between each one. It's one right after the other. So that's the challenge of the sport. But I do like you to know that there are more distances than just the Ironman distance. I think a lot of people don't know that, but a great way to start is a sprint distance event. A sprint distance, thank you for all the hearts, appreciate it. The sprint distance is probably the more popular starting distance for sure, and I would suggest also pool tri versus an open water. We'll talk about that, but most of them are about 400 yards, I would say. In the pool, and then they move to the bike, which is about 12 miles, and then their run is about a 5K. So a lot of people that I coach or work with come from a running background. I come from a running background, and so they're familiar with running. So I'm probably not going to talk a ton about that right now. I'm going to talk about, thanks for the hearts, I appreciate it. I'm going to talk a little bit about like the swimming and the cycling. A lot of people are very intimidated by triathlon because I think they envision or they see what a magazine of triathlete, magazine cover looks like, and that athlete is like lean and healthy, and that's the ideal. That's not necessarily what every triathlete looks like. I've been to triathlon events where they are all shapes and sizes. I've seen Ironman finishers that are overweight. You'd even call them obese, and they've done the training, but they're still fit. They just have a lot of fat they haven't worked off yet. And many of them have lost 100 pounds to get that far. So you do not have to be this super lean, fit person to do a triathlon. Please know that. But I still am not seeing any chat. I'm sad about that because I really want it to be a little more interactive. I'll figure it out. So still, this is my third Periscope, so I'm learning. But I'm getting the heart, so thank you for that. So when you start, Oh, good. I'm seeing a little bit of chat. Thank you so much. When you start, you know, you have to kind of just jump in with both feet. When I started, I knew about running and I did know enough. I didn't actually my first triathlon wasn't until I had 3 children. So I had 3 kids, little kids, and I still was able to get the training in. I come from a running background. I ran in college on scholarship, so long distance running. So that's my background. And so that component was taken care of. And I also knew what was hard work, you know, and how it felt to push myself. That really helped. But swimming was kind of new to me. I took swim lessons when I was a little tiny. And I have a friend that I'd run with that was a good swimmer, and I was sort of intimidated to go, but I did make a time where we were planning on going, and I cannot tell you how many times I wanted to call and cancel because I didn't want to look like a dummy, you know, I didn't want to look like a person that couldn't swim, but I went for it, jumped in. I couldn't get all the way across the pool. Matter of fact, I went swimming a few times on my own before I met with this friend because I didn't want to make a fool of myself. But I couldn't get all the way across the pool when I first started. So it is something that I decided I don't want this to beat me. I'm going to keep doing it. And so getting in there and going for it, and just, it's going to be kind of hard. It's going to be difficult, and that's okay. Just, if you're going to do a triathlon, kind of like running a marathon or something, you've got to understand it's not going to be super easy. Question, I was afraid to go on the bike on the street before I first tried. Okay, yes, the fear of cycling on the road. I can tell you that, yes, it can be intimidating to ride on the roads with traffic. My suggestion for that would be to find areas where there isn't as much traffic. You know, and there's a lot of great tools out there that you can find routes in your area. Thank you for all the hearts. One of the things I would suggest is Map My Ride. Map My Run works too. You can certainly find routes that way too. But that's a great way to find routes in your area. One thing I will say in terms of safety, I wouldn't tell people where you're coming from or what, you know, you can post routes and stuff. But that's a good way to kind of see where are busy roads, where are roads that I could travel. You can always drive routes before as well to make sure that they're not, you know, they're safer, because you don't want to go on a gravel road and you can't always tell by some of those maps, but that's a good way. You know, I'm actually in the midst of getting over a fear of cycling just because I was hit on my bicycle. About a year ago, it was September last year. And so I can attest to understanding how hard it can be to get out on a bike, but I don't want you to not do it because, you know, I really enjoy cycling. Right now I've been cycling on a road that has very little traffic. And as a mom, I mean, I just want to, I'm a big advocate for safety. So I'm definitely going to do some different posts on safety. But yeah, it is a concern. So try to find routes that are just not as trafficy. I know that seems like a really simple answer, but there are other routes that aren't so trafficy. And I think be aware of what you're doing. Be aware of your surroundings. Assume that the cars don't see you when you're in an intersection. Wear bright colors. There's a lot of things you should do. But I want to get back to what I've got a few minutes here and I've got somebody coming. But I want to talk about how to get started in the triathlon training itself. So when I first start with people, thanks for all the hearts, by the way, I like to tell them to start with a 2, 2, and 2. Thanks for joining back at Square. Glad to have you. Let us know where you're from. I suggest people starting 2, 2, and 2. So that means 6 days a week you're training. Every day you're choosing one discipline or another. So 2 days a week you're doing swimming. I suggest getting there and make it worth it. You know, at least 30 minutes of swimming. I prefer you to do an hour when you start. Just, you know, maybe you're only doing 25 at a time or one length at a time. 2, 2, and 2. So 2 in the pool, 2 on the bike. Outdoor is best, but if you're still nervous about that, you can always get an indoor trainer. And I highly suggest fluid over magnetic trainers, by the way. And two times running a week. And, you know, it's going to vary how much you do, just depending on where you're at now. I'll definitely do some more posts on how much you should be doing. But swimming is really inexpensive. Get an athletic suit, get a swim cap. Cap, by the way, isn't going to keep your hair dry. I used to think, oh, that's going to keep my hair dry. No, it just keeps your hair from getting tangled in your goggle strap and breaking if you're a female. A lot of men don't wear caps. So swim cap, goggles, swimsuit, and of course the pool, local pool. See if they have a punch pass or something like that. There are some places that a pool is hard to find, but definitely see if that's available to you. Get there twice a week. We'll talk more about specifics of training in probably other videos. I don't want to make this like way too long. With cycling, when I first started cycling, I remember thinking, gosh, I don't feel like I'm getting much of a workout. It took me at least an hour to feel like I got anything. And cycling is a little more like that. You know, of course, if you get it in different gears, it's going to be harder if you go different terrain as well. But just getting out there and moving and getting, I think the thing that's hardest when you first start cycling to get used to is the saddle and your sit bones. I highly suggest chamois butter or chamois cream on your part. Keep yourself feeling a little bit better. Also using a thick padded cycling short and getting a good quality. With cycling, you're usually going to get better quality with the more you spend. You're going to get a better quality. So now, do you have to have a fancy bike? No, we will go into the different kinds of bikes. But when you start, especially if you're not sure, sign up for a triathlon. I can get somebody ready for a triathlon even if they're out of shape in 6 weeks because they can walk, run. They don't have to and they don't have to go fast on the bike. The thing is getting to the finish and enjoying yourself. And you think, gosh, I really like this. Then start investing in some of the fancier equipment. But I say when you start, you can use a mountain bike. You can borrow a bike from somebody. It is helpful if it fits you pretty well. You want to make sure you adjust the seat at least and those things. But you can start with just the basics. You don't have to get fancy. You can get a department store bike to start with even. And then start moving to higher equipment if you think you really like it and you want to invest. I will say triathlon is not the cheapest sport. Running is not an expensive sport, but I do want to tell you that running shoes are key. So making sure you're getting good running shoes. You've got to have that. Good running shoes for sure from a running store, not necessarily from your all-in-one stores. Your, different brands are at all stores, but there are different models of that same shoe at the running shoe store that are much higher quality. Matter of fact, in the end, you're going to save money because you can get 300 to 500 miles out of a good pair of shoes. So I'm not seeing a ton of questions. Please, please, please feel like you can ask questions. I do talk fast. I'll try to slow down. So sorry about that. So just get in the water twice a week and alternate the day. Maybe even go swim one day, bike one day, run one day, and then alternate it again. I do suggest taking one rest day a week because if you're in this for the long run, you need the mental break from pushing yourself all the time, and your body needs a break. So and certainly feel free to walk, run when you start with running and cycle at a speed that feels right for you, and more importantly, getting those sit bones more used to a saddle. And adjust the saddle you can move around that saddle, even the tip of it, or back and forward to see if it feels better. And you may even need to have to, get a new saddle if you need to. And cycling shops can actually measure your sit bones and get the right saddle for your width that you need. So I think that's valuable. And goggles, I would say if you're swimming in a pool, just get some clear goggles. The dark ones are good for outdoor swimming. We can definitely talk about that more. Be sure and ask questions. I have to go here. I've got somebody coming, but I'm hoping that was helpful for you. You can find me on Instagram at The Blonde Runner. I try to post inspirational things about nutrition, things about training or my training. You can follow that. I'm also on Facebook. I have a athlete page, Blonde Runner, Laura Erickson. You can also find me under Blonde Runner Health. That's my business name. And then of course I'm on Twitter as Blonde Runner, and that's probably the best way to ask a question if you think of something after this, or you weren't able to join us live. Then just tweet me a question and then I'll answer it in one of these periscopes. But I love the interaction, so love the hearts, love you guys joining in, and I'm hoping to keep giving you more information to help you out. So thanks for joining today, and I hope to see you soon. Live well.